Warning. The following content may contain elements that are not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
I did it alone. I did it by myself. I mean, everything that I've done, I did it by myself. So when I focus on getting a house, become a Marine, getting this type of job, be good at this thing, I set my mind to it.
Welcome back to Win the Night podcast. I am your host, Josh Lopez. Tonight, I have a mutual friend of a friend. His name is Deian. He's a former Marine. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I do want to, you have a pretty interesting story. So from what I hear, and just correct me if I'm wrong, right? We talked a little bit about it offset, was that you're from Romania. And when did you move to the U.S.? How old were you?
I believe I was like 16. I came here in 2013.
2013. You were 16?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. I think so.
Okay. And what brought you over here?
So people outside of like America always have this American dream thing, thinking that whenever they're going to come here, they're always going to have like a better life per se. Mm. So I guess my parents' dream was always to have me here because the situation in Romania is not really that great financially. Like you cannot find jobs, even though you have college, you cannot find jobs, or maybe if you do find jobs, you do not find good paying jobs.
What was life like from what you can remember growing up in Romania?
Respect.
Okay.
You're gonna hear respect everywhere you go. So for example, there's different ways of saying good morning. I can say good morning to you as a normal person, like a friend or whatever, but there's also a way to address older people with respect. And if you do not show that respect, they're going to take it as disrespect, even though you do not disrespect them.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't address them formally, it's disrespectful.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you. How many siblings did you have? Were you
just me?
Single child. Okay. And so your parents, I imagine, came over with you, right? And what were they doing before?
So my dad is a welder, and then my mom was just a clean lady at my school.
Did they save up to get over here? Like, what was the plan?
So the plan was, in order to get here, we needed to get a visa.
Okay.
So I think before I was even born, you have this visa lottery, and it so happened that we won, and then it just takes like 10 years to get the papers ready to actually move to America. Because even though I want it now, that doesn't mean I can go to America tomorrow or the next day or the next year. It's a very long process.
And when did do you know like when they started applying, how long it took roughly from the time they started applying for their visa to the time that they actually came over?
I think over 10 years.
Over 10 years?
Yeah.
So you were what, 3, 4?
I guess so.
Oh wow! So they had been already trying to make the move from the time you were
exactly
a little kid. So then, what was it like growing up for you? Was it always the idea of I'm gonna leave?
Yeah, basically. So I didn't really give much thought to it until I graduated middle school, and it's like, okay, it's coming, but I don't know when. But it's coming and it's close, and I cannot have like a relationship. I cannot get like very close bonds with people because I will leave sooner or later. I just don't know when.
So you really couldn't get close to.
Basically, yeah.
Was there any stress involved?
A little bit because like they teach English in Romania, but like they teach like British English, but they don't really you learn it, but you don't really know it.
Was it difficult for you to did you know English already? You said
here and there, like I wasn't able to speak in English. I could maybe understand a couple words, but that's about it.
And you didn't really get to speak it till you got over here?
Correct. It took me like 3 years to actually get a good grasp of it.
You were 13, right? 14?
About 16 when I actually got here.
16. Because so just to give you a little bit of an insight, my first language was Spanish. And when I moved over, because I was back and forth from Mexico to the U.S. a couple of times when my parents split up. So I spoke Spanish for I was in third grade before I was in a bilingual class because I had to go bilingual because I just couldn't speak. Like I got put in a regular English speaking class.
ESL?
What's that?
Is it the proper name for ESL?
I don't even remember. I was really young, but maybe. But first time I was in kindergarten, and in kindergarten I don't really have much of a memory. I think my teacher was bilingual, so I didn't have to go to a bilingual class, so that was okay. But then when I came back for second grade, my teacher wasn't bilingual, and it was its own English only class, and so I was like failing everything. Gotcha. I couldn't understand what they wanted me to learn, and I really struggled to in general I struggled with school, so that was something that was hard. But when you're 16 years old, that's a lot harder. Like when I was in like third grade, I mean, I picked it up pretty quick. By fourth grade I was fine. Like you couldn't even detect an accent by the time I was in fifth grade. And so for you, like, what you started when you were 16? So you were in high school, right? You were just freshman high school?
So I started high school in Romania and completed the first semester over there. And then I moved for the second semester here.
That's a weird transition.
Yeah, it was.
What's really the biggest difference between Romania, like as a culture, and the U.S.?
High school. Mm-hmm. So you guys have 9th grade over here. So we have 9th grade A, 9th grade B, 9th grade C, 9th grade D.
Oh,
correct. So when you're in high school, like you're learning everything that everybody else is learning, but for something specific that you choose, like your path, you're learning that specific subject.
So you're already focusing on like a major.
Correctly. So I was gonna do IT. So that's what I was studying for.
So from 9th grade, so a freshman, technically a freshman in high school, you're already working towards your major.
Correct.
So then when you got here, we don't as far as I know, we don't do that here.
So when I got here, for example, physics or mathematics was easy. Like I was asleep mainly every class because what they did here in 9th grade, I was doing in like 5th. Yeah. That's
similar in Mexico is similar. I was.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So when I was in first grade in Mexico, and we were already learning cursive, we were learning multiplication. And when I came back to the U.S., we didn't start learning that cursive and all that till 4th grade, and I was in first grade. So I already knew how to write in cursive. I already knew how to do multiplications, and so that was like the advantage I had in those subjects. Was that it seems like the American school system's behind a lot of countries in terms of what they teach, because in my experience in Mexico was that it's a little bit more advanced, at least a few grades ahead. Yeah. And so what was the culture shock like?
So it's like little things here and there. So for example, to go see a friend, normally in Romania, I would just walk. Like I can get anywhere to the city by just walking, but we will live very close because we live in like buildings that are like 10 floors. So there's a lot of people in that one little area. But multiple buildings. So for example, for me, I would just walk 10 minutes and I'll see my friend. But here, I have to drive like half an hour to an hour.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And I hear that with like people that are from like the UK, that they say that when they come over to the US, it's like you could like go down the street and then you're at like just about everything that everybody does. Exactly. It's like all within a general area. And then when in the U.S., right, like it's like, oh, it's really close. It's only like 20 minutes away. It's like, what? And for them, that's a culture shock. That's like, okay, so that was like a big deal. Was how far everything was. And so then when you came over here, did you keep any? Because if you're in high school, you must have. Did you have friends over there that you?
Yeah.
Right.
So I kept in touch with them, but sooner or later, it just ended. It's not like I was trying to end it. It's not like they were trying to end it. It just so happened that we just grew in separate ways. What
were your friendships like growing up? Were there any long-term friends that made it into high school for you?
Yeah. So whenever you go through all the grades and stuff like that, even though we go to different high schools. There are like multiple high schools over there.
Mm.
So, depending on what kind of grades you get placed in this one and this one or this one. We will always keep in touch.
Did you notice any differences in how friendships work, for example, in Romania versus how friendships work in the U.S.? Are they any tighter? Are they any like?
I would guess the friendships in Romania are like way tighter than the ones over here. Here, one thing I noticed was that people are very big into texting here, which is a cultural difference, I would say, because we're very accustomed to just calling each other. Like, I'm not going to text you. Like, you can text me, for example, I'm going to go buy some groceries. What do you need? You can text me then.
Mm-hmm.
But just to ask how are you doing and stuff like that, I'll just call you.
That's interesting. You know, with texting, that's one of the things that the pros and cons to texting that I think is the cons are for sure that there can be a lot of miscommunication.
Correct.
That's what I've noticed, and I think that like, and this part of the reason why I've decided to do this is because I think this is a better form of I think this is probably the best form of communication, is to sit down in person and just be like, hey, what do you think about this or whatever. But phone call is the second best, because if we can't communicate face to face, then at least, because I think there's an intonation that matters, right? Like
exactly.
Sarcasm doesn't play off well.
Exactly.
Does American sarcasm come off as rude? Because I've often felt like from other people that are not from here, when they come here, like they don't pick up on sarcasm.
I feel like for me it was the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. What I would consider sarcastic, I would make something sarcastic joke with somebody else. They'll get mad. I'm like, whoa, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
yeah. So it was the opposite for me, because
in
Romania you can talk about all sorts of crazy stuff. I know you're joking. Like, I'm not gonna take it too hard. But when I got here, everybody took things too hard. I'm like, well, I actually, like, I know I'm saying like something stupid, but like, don't take it too hard. Like, I do not mean that by.
So you're noticing that, like, so is that more how everybody interacts out there? Is just they're more like they give people more a hard time, or like?
Yeah, I guess so, in like a friendly manner.
Sure. So then, yeah, that's going to be a culture shock because
like I mess with you because I like you, per se.
It's funny. That's how, and maybe that's just like a thing, because in Mexican culture, at least I can only speak for my family. For my family, if we bully you, like, we like you. Exactly. If we didn't like you, we just wouldn't talk to you. And so that's interesting. I haven't talked enough with people that are, let's say, from other countries, but that's similar in Mexico. Is, yeah, if I like you, I'm gonna bully you a little bit.
Exactly.
So then people are a little bit softer here.
I wouldn't say softer. I would say, like, for me and you, we got accustomed to that because we've seen that growing up.
Sure.
But for them, they see it here and there.
Oh.
See what I mean? It's not that they're sensitive. It's just like they haven't done it that many times to completely get a full grasp of it. Like, what would the meaning behind it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I think it's a little bit tricky to really word exactly why. I think maybe it varies on the person, because
or the way you guys' relationships are. Like, yeah, we're talking, but we're not close.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe that could have a play into things.
One thing that I hear, and then I want to get your opinion on it. One thing I hear about Americans is that, unlike other places, like, they're very friendly without knowing you well. Is that something is that your observation, or is that not your observation? What have you observed?
So, for example, here, they were saying, like, yeah, Americans are friendly, yada, yada, yada. So whenever you go buy something, they will greet you and ask how you're doing. But then when I would say the same thing back, I didn't hear any answer. So they just kind of brush me off.
That is crazy. Yeah, that's you've had the opposite experience of what I've heard for a lot of people. Is that it's like, oh yeah, they're really they're really nice. I'm referring, which do you know who Khabib Nurmagomedov is, the UFC fighter? Yeah, he mentioned that in an interview, was like that he noticed about Americans is that they're really nice without having known you too well. Like, they just met you, and it's just like, oh, how are you? Like they want to know about how you're doing and all that. And in Russia or Dagestan, like unless I know you, like I'm not gonna be that invested in you.
Correct. So it's kind of like the same thing in Romania. Like you give the proper greeting on the day, and then I'll like this, thank you. And then how's your day going? It's like, oh, it's going slow, or it's going this, and they would just kind of ask you that thing back, and you just answer, and then you just walk about your day. So it's not only, how should I say? It's not only that, because sometimes I do say like, hey, how you doing, or just hey, and I just don't get anything, and they just kind of get doing their thing. Like,
you know what? But you're also in Chicago, like in Illinois, I should say.
That's true, but then again, this is not based just Chicago in general. This is based in California, North Carolina, Vegas, all those places.
Have you lived there or gone there or?
Yeah, I was stationed in San Diego.
That's right. We're gonna get into that. I want to know more about that. Okay, so before we get there, what was your relationship like with your parents?
I would say not as close as I would want it to be. For example, growing up, like I said, the situation in Romania is kind of bad economically. So in a family, if somebody doesn't have a very good paying job, one parent is going to go into another country and work. So that was the case with me. So my dad, as a welder, he was going to all these countries just to provide for me and my mom.
How long, like, what was it like? Let's say, for example, like, were you a middle-class family there? Were you like, what was your social status and how did that affect you growing up?
Well, growing up, I didn't really have like a lot of things. Like, sure, I did have like food, and I didn't have like clothes, well, not so many clothes or shoes and stuff like that. Like, growing up, I'll have like one pair of boots that I'll use winter, summer, and all year long.
Yeah.
I did have a place where to stay that was warm or cold in the summer. So that's a good thing. But my parents were always gone. So my dad would only visit us for maybe like a month out of the whole year.
So your dad was mostly out of the picture, and how much time did you get to spend with your mom?
So the other thing with my mom is she was like gone for mainly all day. So she'll come around like 6 p.m. or something like that. So we would spend like a couple hours together, and then we go to sleep, and then the next day.
And what would you wish? Obviously, I would guess that you'd want to spend more time with your dad, but what would the ideal situation had been if you could have chosen for the situation with your parents? Like, what would you change?
They provided for me, but they didn't really care like how my day is going or like support me. I wish they could be more supportive.
Supportive, like emotionally, like supportive.
So I'm gonna give you an example. In Romania, I got like picked up. Somebody picked on me once, and then I was like crying, and then my mom went down to talk to me. The first thing that she said was, "Who did this to you? Let's go talk to him," or stuff like that. It's like, "What did you do to him?"
Oh, yeah. So that's hard because you'd like to think, or at least I would like to think that, when I go to my parent, like they're going to ask me like, what did they do? And instead you get, what did you do to them?
Exactly.
What would you say to that? What was your response to that?
I'll say like, hey, like I didn't do nothing. He would just like pick on me for no reason. And then I think she would say like, well, next time just don't talk to him, or next time just leave, or stuff like that. Like completely dismiss me.
How did that affect your relationship with your mom? Did that carry on? Like, did you feel upset about that for a long period of time, or? So,
not so much, because when I completely forgot about that. And then there's one big thing that happened growing up when I was like with her. So in Romania, we have this phone. It's called DG. So the specific phone you can call. So like you have carriers and stuff like that. You pay to talk, but for this one, it's like unlimited everything, but you have to pay for that. Not by I pay $10. I get 10 hours, 1,000 messages.
Right.
Like if I send a text, I'm gonna pay for that text. So Um, well, I was like playing around on that phone, and then I lost it one day.
Jeez.
So I don't know how many days I got beat, but I got beat bad with the belt, with the metal part of the belt.
Wow.
Like slapped, pull my ears, pull my hair, just boom, 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 back to back.
This was your mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
So day 1, day 2, I don't know how many days it keep going. Like it didn't stop. Like it was not like one day. It was next day and the next day. And then
I'm sorry, I have
Go.
to ask. Was that like a thing, or was that like a one time? Like, did that happen throughout your life, or was that like just a one time thing?
Losing that phone?
No, no.
Or getting my
Yeah.
Okay, so it happened here and there. So sometimes, like, yeah, I know I did something stupid and I'll get slapped for it. I understand that. I understand that part. But in that scenario is she thought that I sold it to somebody or gave it to somebody. And I know I didn't. And then I just keep telling her, like, no, like, it's here. It's in the house. I didn't give it to nobody. So, and then she came to school one day, talked to the principal, because she thought this one specific person that I was talking to, which was a friend, he's not like the best company to be around, but she thought I sold it to him. And then he's like over there talking like, no, he didn't give me anything. He didn't give me anything. And then I think it got to the point where she wanted to put me on a foster family.
Okay.
Because of that, I was like, what the hell?
Do you know what it was? What her childhood was like? Did she ever talk about like her mother and father?
Not really. The only thing that I knew about her childhood is that her mom died of breast cancer at 18.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That
Yeah.
was what happened, because
It was horrible. So it was like when I would go outside, you just see bruises, scars, scratches, everything on me. It's not like one bruise here, my whole body was covered in it.
wow. And how many days did this last?
I cannot remember. Like I knew it was more than 2-3 days. I know that for a fact.
Oh man.
So there was an aunt. Yeah,
Yes.
aunt. That did believe me. So she talked to my mom, and then she's like, "Oh, he's telling the truth. It's somewhere in the house." And then she looked throughout the house and found that fucking phone.
What was the conversation like after that? What did she say?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That. How do you feel about that today?
So that thing alone, every single time I tell somebody the truth and they do not believe me, I get enraged. Like, because I remember of that specific moment. So growing up, after that, I pushed her away. Like, I told you the truth, you didn't believe me. Like, I need your support, you didn't give me your support.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, you giving me food and stuff like that, but, like, what the hell do I need you besides that?
So this is my experience. One of the things that I've struggled with is, like, I love my mom. I think she did the best that she could have with what she knew. But one of the things that really made it difficult for me was I think from a mother you really expect or hope for like a nurturing. Like that's what I hope for, is like when things are hard, I want to come to you and be like, "Hey, I'm struggling and like I need someone to comfort me." Right?
Yeah.
That's what I didn't have that. And not having that like has made me look for it in like other places. What was your experience like?
Basically the same thing. Like I said, I was getting bullied. I came to you for help. You dismissed me. And then it happened again. Next time I'm not coming to you.
So then where did you go to when you got into situations like that again?
I guess to nobody, because my dad was out of the picture. Like he was visiting us. It's not like they were divorced or anything like that. But he was not there. I couldn't go to my mom. That's about it. Like I would just talk to friends. Like I guess to release the stress by just like talking.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the most I could do.
Yeah. So then I would be angry too. Is if I tell you something and you don't believe me, I would be angry because like if your parent won't believe you, right? That's the person who's supposed to believe you.
Correct.
It's like, who can I trust?
Exactly.
That's what I've run into. And so when you so then when you got to the US, right, and you started doing high school and all that, do you still find it difficult to trust people?
Not so much. I'm like an open book. Like the thing about me, I can share like a lot of things about me, but my biggest pet peeve is if I'm talking to you about like, let's just say my past, why does he need to know about it? You know what I mean?
I get what yeah. So like there's the whole little he said, she said conversations that goes on after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like some things, like I'm not saying like secrets and stuff like that, but like sometimes I do say secrets, but then some way, somehow she knows or he knows about it. Like, why does he know?
Yeah.
Like, if they want to know something like that, they could just ask me.
Yeah.
Because, like, now you're talking behind my back.
That's it. Yeah. That's exactly. But that's what it is. If I tell you something, at least how I see it, if I tell you something in confidence and then I find out like it just comes up and that person just says like, oh yeah, don't you blah, 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 blah. And it's like,
I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
What?
Immediately I'm going to look at the other guy I told. I was like, how's that person know? Right.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. And then when you, let's say for example, did you experience that a lot?
Yeah.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, because when I came here, I came to my uncle.
Mm.
So he was already living here like for like 20 years or something. So when we came here, we lived with him.
Mm.
So him and his family, they're like Baptist.
Mm.
So they thought it would be a good idea for me to come to a Romanian English Baptist school.
What is that about?
So they have like a church.
Okay.
And then a lot of the people that go to the church also go to that school.
Mm.
So basically, all of those Romanians are basically every teacher over there is Romanian.
Mm.
So they can teach in English, but also if you need help, they can teach in Romanian.
Okay. And was this, were you struggling? Is that why they suggested it? Or
not that I was struggling, but that would be an easier way for me to understand, to learn English. But the thing about it is, because you asked me if I struggled a lot with people talking about behind my back.
Mm.
So now imagine people that have been growing together their whole life. And then I come over there and then like mess everything up per se. Not mess everything up, but like they are buddies. So I will never get to that level with them per se.
Okay.
So now I'm talking to you. She's going to know. He's going to know. She's going to know. Because they just have that group.
Right.
And then since I wasn't like Baptist or anything like that, I was out of that group instantly.
So then you weren't, were you not accepted?
Not so much. They would just look at me like, oh, this sinner. Like here and there, they would kind of involve me in certain things, but like they always kind of like push me away.
Was there something that they didn't like about you, you think? Or what was it that?
I mean, well, they did grow up among other Baptist people or Pentecostal people. And then they're not really exposed to people outside of that.
And so then the idea is that an outsider is therefore more of a sinner.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then again, like I was sweating here and there because like it's not like me trying to be how do you call it? I have like a filthy mouth 24/7 or no filter or anything like that. It's like here and there because it would be normal.
Sure.
Just sort here and there.
Yeah.
That's about it. But for them, not hearing that, it was a big deal because it's something that you do not hear often.
Do you think that is that just something that's has been a part of your personality, or is that something that like that grew on you? Because I know that here in the U.S., like there's a lot of people that talk like that. I talk like that sometimes, and it just happens. Is that something that grew on you here, or is that something that you just have always had?
Something always have. You guys are pretty much stuck with fuck, bitch. Like very simple words, like just like a few of them.
Yeah.
We have a lot of adjectives. Like we can go above
There's a whole wheel.
Like we have plenty of choices.
It's a colorful rainbow. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, and so then there was just a lot that you could choose from.
Exactly.
Essentially.
It's fine to choose for, but then again, I knew here and there, I knew the place and time to say those type of things. And then whenever I would say them, I wouldn't say it in Romanian because obviously it's very colorful. So I tried to stick with English.
Sure.
And they did not like that one bit.
So was it more offensive I don't understand. Was it more offensive in English or was it?
So just the fact alone that those were like swear words and bad, then they would look down upon. That was the main thing.
Okay. Just in general, offensive words. Okay. So how long were you a part of that?
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
What was the final straw for you? What took you so long, I guess I should say?
Oh, no. So I would.
I broke when he broke. I'm just like 4 years.
So like I would swear here and there, but like now I know who to say that around.
Okay.
Because there's other people that don't come from a Christian background. So I still swear here and there with them.
Right.
But I try to not say those words around the other people.
What made you then think about the Marine Corps? How did you even hear about it? Where did that come from?
Basically, my best friend told me, like, hey, would you like to join the Marines? Like, they're the hardest, they're like all this and that. I'm like, huh, I never heard of that. Like, I never heard of the Marines. I just knew like Army and Air Force. That's
Sure.
about it. And then I looked at like videos and all the stuff. I'm like, oh, so these people are like basically infantry oriented.
Yeah.
People. They're not like, oh, you just dicking around on a boat.
Right.
Or I don't know, stuff like this. Like you're just not doing jack shit. So I like the fact that you could see the difference like before and after somebody becomes a Marine. And I'm like, I want that.
So you knew some people that went in and then
Correct.
came back. So you got to see them become Marines.
Exactly.
And I had a couple of friends go in and come back, and I got to see them as Marines too. And what I could tell you that I noticed right away was there was just this difference in the way they carried themselves. There's a difference in the way that they walked. There was a difference in the way that they, even just in the way they dressed. So what was it for you that was like, yeah, I want to do that?
Just the way they carry themselves.
Same, yeah. And and this friend, did you, like, are you still close with them? You still talk to them?
We're talking here and there.
And what was did you look up any videos? Because before I went in, I did a ton of research. I looked up a ton of videos. I was like, I want to be as ready as possible. By the way, that doesn't help. But
so everything that I've seen was just moto videos. That's it. I didn't see any boot camp videos. That was the
Oh, so you just had
no clue. No clue what I was.
Did you ask your friend like what that was like?
Like they would tell me like, oh, it's hard, this blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I was like training with them like maybe for like a year or so in the pulley.
You were in the DEP program?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like training for like a whole year. I'm like, I got this. Easy peasy.
Yeah. Yeah, what was that like?
You know those Foot Lockers? How you have the
yeah.
That's the first time I ever used one. Boy, I got the whole platoon hazed.
Oh, so I had interesting story. So I had a next door neighbor that I had to unlock his locker for the first week of boot camp. So I had to unlock mine and his, and he was from the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
He just grew up in like the country. So like
I see.
they didn't have lockers. Their schools were so small.
Yeah, we don't even have lockers in Romania. There's no such thing as a locker. You just have a backpack.
Right. And so he wasn't used to that either. And so we were like, I remember it was receiving week when we got there. And you know how when you first get there, you have like a temporary place where you stay. Right. He was my next door neighbor at that point. And so, they're counting us down. And so I'm opening my locker and whatever. He's like, with the thick country accent, hey, could you open my locker? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I never touched none of these. And I'm just like, are you serious right now? Like, we have like 5 seconds, dude. And so I ran over and I was like and I got his open, right? And so this was like a reoccurring thing. How long did it take you to get used to that?
I mean, for me, nobody helped me.
So well, at some point,
they just like told me like spin it this way. I'm like, I'm just like trying to do things as fast as possible.
Let me just rewind it for 1 second, because when I was terrified to learn the combination lock when I was going into middle school, because that's when I first learned it. That took me a while, not at boot camp, right?
Yeah, like in high school, I've seen people use them, but like I don't have nothing worth like valuable in my backpack other than my books and notebooks.
Sure.
Nothing is of value.
Yeah.
So I never had the need for that.
Right. So what was that like? Because you have to your whole experience is going to be just being hazed.
Exactly. So now think about that, but you're getting hazed because of one person. Now everybody hated me because of that.
Yeah, I bet.
Because, like you said, you have to go past that number a couple times, like twice.
On the left, when you go
and
left,
then I thought I was like, okay, I went here. Let me go back to here. It's just like this motion. I didn't go like all around.
Didn't go to the full circle, yeah.
It took me like, I don't know, 4 or 5 tries. And people like kind of like not telling me, but like just yelling at me. Please. Like multiple people are like, do this. I'm like, how many times?
Was this during receiving, or was this once you picked up?
Black Friday.
Black Friday. Okay, well, now I'm going to have to, for people who don't know, Black Friday is when you go to your platoons, you get assigned to your platoons. The first week of boot camp is all administrative, so you get your shots. If you need to get your teeth pulled, you get screened for. I didn't get my teeth pulled till probably first couple weeks, just before we started swimming.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And I got mine pulled in MOS school.
Oh, they waited that long?
I don't know why they waited that long, but I'm glad because I seen all those people in pain. So they pulled my wisdom teeth and then another tooth. I don't know why.
Which one?
So it's like
they pulled my front tooth out.
Yeah, because I was like, why'd you take that one? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean, what do you mean?
Wait a minute. Do you know what you took out?
It's like, I don't know why she took it out. I'm like, what do you mean?
Which, they took out another molar?
Yeah, I don't know why.
No. Wow. Well, I'll tell you, that sounds right, because when I got my teeth pulled, originally they told me you're gonna get 2 teeth pulled. It's gonna be I think the two left wisdom teeth. They said the other ones are fine. I said, okay, no problem. So I go there day of the surgery, and they're like, just kidding, we're gonna do all 4 of them. I was like, why? I was scared because I was like, I don't want this to get infected, because if this gets infected and I get dropped, this is going to ruin everything.
Exactly.
That was my fear. So I was like, I asked, okay, wait, why am I getting all of them? I thought I was just going to get these 2 pulled. And they were like, well, because it just won't be even. I was like, what? Like, it's not going to be even when you close your mouth. I was like, but if you're taking the 2 out, it's even at least on that side. They're like, nah, it won't be even on the other side. I was like, okay. So they pulled my teeth,
sure.
All 4 of them that day. And so I'll tell you this story. It was my first time on Firewatch. And for those who don't know Firewatch is essentially just security. You're on post for security in the case of a fire. That's why it's called Firewatch. But it's also just in general security. So there are 4 people total, and there are 2 people called rovers. And so those are the people that are checking to make sure all the recruits are there. And then there are the post, front and back. So front post greets whoever's going to be there, and drill instructors are typically the people you run into, or sometimes commanding officers. And the back is just in case they come in through the back, which I really hope for being back post all the time, because rarely did anybody come through those doors. And so it was my time in Firewatch, and I think I was going to be a rover, right? And so when I when I was getting dressed, I got woken up. It was like midnight, and I got woken up, and I'm hearing this other recruit talk, like the front post talking to, or not front post, a rover talking to the to a recruit that's randomly just getting dressed. he's like his I won't say his name, but he's like, hey recruit, whatever your name is. He's like, what are you doing? And he's not answering him, right? So he's just putting his shoes on, right? His Go Fasters, just putting them on. He's in shorts, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? Get back in your rack. Not answering him. And I'm still getting dressed. So I'm like, what's going on here? So I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm just thinking the same thing. Like, what's going to happen, right? So he just keeps walking towards him. He's like, get back. And before he finishes saying, get back to your rack, decks him right in the face. Like, they start getting into a scuffle. And so now everybody's realizing this guy's trying to run away. Like, clearly he's trying to run. And so he's the recruit, the rover. He's a small little guy, man. Like, I got to give him credit because he was fighting with a bigger dude, and he's grabbing him with everything he has. Like they're like scuffling, right? Like they're like grabbing each other, and he's trying to let go. He's kicking them. Like they're trying. He's fighting to keep him in. And so I'm just like, oh, this is bad. What are we gonna do? And so just as I'm thinking, like, do we need to go help him? He breaks free, and we're on the second deck, right? So we're in the second story. So our door is right by the stairs, and so he's trying to make a run for those stairs. He knows the recruit that's grabbing onto him, that's on post, knows he's losing grip on him, and so he just kicks him, and he kicks him down the stairs, and and you just see him tumble. And so now the recruit's like, well, I've lost him. So he goes over and he wakes the drill instructor up, and the drill instructor comes out like pissed, right? Like, what? Exactly. What do you want? Like, what do you want? He's like, recruit so-and-so ran away, sir. So he takes off after him. He goes, he takes off after him. And like, I got to give that drill instructor credit, man. That guy was like ready. He was asleep. So he got woken up from a sleep, and like he booked it right after him. And the recruit made it over to he climbed the fence and made it over to the airport side of, you know how the San Diego airport's attached. So he made it to the opposite side. And that's where he got caught by MP, was on the runway. The fastest way out of boot camp was always, and for anybody watching that wants to do it or knows somebody that did it and wants to know about it, the fastest way out of boot camp is and will always be graduation. No matter what you do, what plan you come up with to get out early, you will always be there longer than if you just graduate.
Exactly, because even if you say like, oh, this recruit doesn't want to train anymore, and you think you're going home, you're staying there until your platoon graduates.
At least. And I heard about, because we had a couple of recruits. Did you have any recruits that were like on watch? Like we had recruits that were like on, watch. Like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about? So there were recruits, I'm not going to say it just because YouTube will censor it, but there were recruits that genuinely like said, yeah, like I'm done. I want to not exist anymore.
Yep.
And that's like how they thought they were going to get out. And maybe sometimes they were serious, but I know that was like a thing where recruits were like, yeah, you can get out if you just say this. And I remember like we had them in, like, it was almost like they became like a center, like the center of the platoon. And so everybody just always had an eye on him. And then he got dropped. We graduated, and like he was still being processed. So like, yeah, at least until your platoon graduates, but typically longer. What was your experience like going through it? Did you have any crazy stuff like that?
Yeah, there were like the craziest thing I've seen in recruit training was he was like horrible recruit. He was fit, but he just had a problem with authority. And then he refused to train. He was like on the core deck. The drill instructor was trying to IT him. It's like, ain't doing it, chief. And then he's like, oh yeah, tight, I got something for you. And you just see this maybe 4 big dudes like MPs. And he's like, all right, Hannah, you got 2 choices. You either push or you going with them. He did it? He was pushing.
Yeah, and there was a handful of them, and that's the challenge with recruit training, is that there are people who genuinely hate, like, do not want to be told what to do. But there are some people too that are just like, well, I just want to see if I could do it. Like, and that's also been a thing I heard a lot.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, my dad made the bet that I will not make it.
What?
So that was my first um, taught when I went over there. Like, well, they're not supporting me. They're actually betting against me that I'll just come back home with my tail between my legs. Is like a Romanian expression.
Yeah. No, that translates. That's a common saying here.
Yeah.
What? So, oh man,
Yeah.
what was that like coming home then? That wasn't like, did they not receive you well?
No, they were. He was actually surprised that I made it.
What did he say? What did he say to you when you came
It was
home?
like oh I'm like what I said, like, oh, I'm actually surprised that you made it, blah blah blah, how was it, yada yada yada, you look different, on all sorts of stuff. Because the thing is, over there you just see people like writing emails left and right. I'm like, I don't have nobody to write it to.
Right.
Like, I'll have my recruiter. I never wrote to my parents, not even once.
What did you think? Did they not want you to talk, or did you feel like you couldn't reach out to them? Why didn't you reach out to them through mail?
Why would I talk to them? Like, for example, like I had nothing to talk to. Like, I made the biggest choice of my life there.
Mm.
So, like, you couldn't even support me with that. Like, something that really meant a lot to me.
Right. So then there was a feeling, would you say, was there like some sort of, I don't know is resentment the right word?
I would say, yeah. Not so much resentment, like about the same alley, around the same alley.
Something similar.
Exactly, because while I was in the military, it was like, okay, now what do I need you for? Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna feed me. I'm not living with you. Like, we have nothing to talk.
And how's your relationship with your parents now?
I visit them like once a week, but then again, like, I don't really say a lot. Like, I've said more in 5 minutes with you guys than in like 4 months with them.
Wow. Do you think that that's something that can be changed, or do you think like that's something that they wouldn't want to address?
It's not that they wouldn't want to address. It's like, I wish that would be changed, but then again, we're too far apart. Like, I want that, but I'm not gonna take the first step,
I see.
and I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Either, so.
Yeah. That's no matter how we slice that, like no matter how we say it, like it's difficult because both people have to want it. First of all, like,
Exactly.
if you can't make, or at least how I feel about it is, I don't think you can make somebody want to be close to you. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's how I feel about it. Like, if they genuinely want to, they'll do it. They'll put in the effort. But I think that parents, and then you can speak to this because you're a parent now. Do you think it's the parent's responsibility to mend relationship? Like, if you want to have a relationship with me, is it the responsibility of the parent to do it?
I'll say yeah, because the parent has the most emotional maturity about that. So I'm not like a kid that like just experienced a couple things for the first time compared to an adult who experienced many things in many types of environments, like different environments, stuff like that. So I feel like the parent should be the one to do so.
I think so too. I think that I think that the first step should be the parent, right?
Exactly, because you can always explain. Like, an adult have, for example, more words to explain things. So it's easier for me to break things down to you than for you trying to figure out, like, oh, do I feel this? Do I feel that? You know what I mean? Because, like, some kids have trouble expressing their feelings.
Yeah.
That's when the adult comes into play. Like, do you feel this? Does this make you feel this or this?
Yeah. And we are running short on time, but I do want to ask, there's one thing I do want to know before we close things out, is how did that relationship with your parents affected you think as a dad?
Basically, I just want to give my child what they couldn't give me, which is support. So I'll be with my daughter through thick and thin, no matter what. I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, what did you do to that person?"
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's something that sticks with you. And before we close out the show, there are a few questions I ask every guest. And what is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience that you're doing that they can support you with, or what do you have going on in general right now?
Right now I'm just going to work, basically trying to redecorate my house, buy furniture and all these things. So that's about it. That's mainly what I do.
Awesome.
Right now.
Yeah. And have you discovered purpose? If so, what is it? And if not, what do you think it is?
Depends, because like I always try to look for purpose, because every single time I reached it, it washed away. Like one big purpose for me was to become a Marine. When I did become a Marine, it was like a very proud couple of weeks, months, and then it washed away. And then I got a house like at a pretty young age, especially in this market.
Yeah.
So literally the first day in, it was like Christmas, because I got it on the December 22nd. Literally 3 days later, I'm like, man, this, like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, I'm still looking for that purpose. I guess one thing that I like was like helping people. So I guess that could be a purpose that hasn't washed away.
I think that's
just helping people.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
I think that's a really great purpose. I don't think there's anything. I don't think that's something that can wash away, fortunately.
Sure.
So, last question. If you could speak to your childhood self, what would you say?
I would say you can accomplish everything that you set your mind to. Because every single thing, because I did it alone. I did it by myself. I mean, everything that I've done, I did it by myself. So when I focus on getting a house, become a Marine, getting this type of job, be good at this thing, I set my mind to it. And then I got that. I got exactly what I wanted.
Dan, thanks so much for being on. We're going to have you on again. There's definitely a lot more I want to talk to you about. So I really hope you can join us next time.
Of course.
And thanks for coming on again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.